Hi, and welcome to another brief presentation. Today, we are going to get familiar with an Anglo Indian author, Ruskin Bond. So, here now we're going to go through a glimpse of his major works. We're going to go through the summaries of some of his important and famous works, what he is known for, why his works have become so important, and so on. Bond is one of the most prominent contemporary living writers in India. He lives in Landore in Missouri, and most of his works, poems, novels, short stories are written for children, and it is set in the background of the Himalayan states like Uttarakhand or Himachal Pradesh, set in places like Missouri and Shimla. So the feel of the hills, the mountains, the morning dew, all these are very fresh and lively in his works. Let's look into some biographical details about the author. First of all, he, as we know, is an Indian author of British descent. He was born on May 19, 1934 in Kasauli, which is in the state of Himachal Pradesh. Bond is considered to be an icon among the Indian writers, and also he is a top novelist, especially noted for his children's writings. His first novel was The Room on the Roof, which he wrote when he was 17 years, and it won the John Llewellyn Rhys Memorial Prize in 1957. So, right from a young age, Bond has written numerous novellas, short stories, essays, and poems. And now he is one of the best loved and most admired chroniclers in contemporary India. Bond is famous for his stories set in the hills and mountains of India, and as we already mentioned, particularly focusing on the areas of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Some of his most well-known books are The Blue Umbrella, A Flight of Pigeons, A Handful of Nuts, and his first work, The Room on the Roof. His contributions to literature have also been recognized with several prestigious awards from the Indian government, such as the Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan. At present, he resides in Landore near Missouri. So that is a brief sketch of the author's life. Now these are some of the major works written by Ruskin Bond. Further on, we'll be exploring his major works in detail. We'll be going through each one of them, seeing their plot and theme, their significance. So beginning with his first work, The Room on the Roof. It was written by Bond when he was 17 years old. The story of The Room on the Roof, it is quite semi-autobiographical. It talks about an Anglo Indian orphan boy named Rusty. And Rusty lives with his guardian, Mr. Harrison, who is a missionary, and his wife. And the setting of the story is in Dehradun. But his guardians want him to stay away from Indians and to groom him as a pure Englishman. So, due to his guardian, Mr. Harrison's strict ways, Rusty decides to run away from his home and he goes on to live with his Indian friends. So, this is the setting and theme of The Room on the Roof. The next work that you can see here, The Blue Umbrella by Ruskin Bond, that describes life in the hill community of Gadwal, where the common people rise to heroic status while others are given chances to atone for their transgressions. In this novel, it further explores a range of emotions like kindness, jealousy, even heroism. And each of its characters are very simple, but they are unique in their own ways. The story takes place in the Gadwal village in Himachal Pradesh, It mainly centers around a young girl named as Binya or Binya Devi. She's 10-year-old girl and who lives with her widowed mother, and she also has an older brother named Biju. And what happens is, in that same village, another man called Ram Barosa, who has an old shop, and he sells Coca Cola with no ice, tea, then curd or sweets. Then one day, Binya gets a beautiful blue umbrella from some foreigners in exchange for her leopard claw pendant. And then this shopkeeper starts growing jealous of the umbrella and he tries to get it from Binya by claiming. He says this is a fancy umbrella which small girls shouldn't have, but Binya refuses to part with her umbrella. And as time passes, Ram Barosa grows jealous of the umbrella and it turns into an obsession. He employs a boy named as Raja Ram from the next village to work at the shop. And when Raja Ram learns of his boss's desire to own the umbrella, he makes an attempt to steal it. But he fails in the attempt and is also caught. Then Raja Ram gives up Ram Barosa's name, causing his shop to be boycotted. So Ram Barosa is now remorseful of his actions, he's feeling miserable, and then Binya realizes her showing off the blue umbrella indirectly led to Ram Barosa's suffering. So in the end, Binya, she willingly gives the umbrella to Ram Barosa, and in return, he gives her a bear claw pendant. So that's how the story in the novel goes. The Blue Umbrella, which is a very famous and a very popular story among children. Now, the third one is Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra. It's a collection of 14 short stories written by Ruskin Bond, published in 1991, and it was for this book that he won the Sahitya Academy Award in 1992. So this is a collection of autobiographical stories written by Bond. The book captures his childhood memories and experiences of growing up in the picturesque town of Dehradun in India. So throughout the book, Bond's simple and evocative writing style captures the sense of his childhood in Dehradun. He also expresses his love for nature, his experiences, the warmth of human relationships. Ultimately, it creates a nostalgic and heartfelt tribute to his hometown, Missouri, and the memories it holds. So, overall, it is a captivating collection of autobiographical stories and it transports us to an idyllic childhood in Dehradun. And it also reflects on the passage of time, the importance of preserving our natural heritage. So, that is the theme of Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra. Coming to the next one, it's a novella, A Flight of Pigeons by Ruskin Bond. It's set in 1857 and it's about the Ruth Labadur and her family. That's a British family. They take help of Hindus and Muslims to reach their relatives. When the family's patriarch is killed in a church by the Indian rebels, it's set in the 1857, the Sepoy Mutiny or the First War of Indian Independence. The novel starts with the death of the father of Ruth, Labadur, in front of her eyes in a church. And this murder is committed by the Indian rebels who are part of the 1857 revolt, and they have also decided to kill all the Britishers in the small town of Shahjahanpur. So it's then that Mariam Labadur, who is the mother of the narrator, Ruth Labadur, comes into action. She takes their entire family of 6 to their trusted friend, Lala Ramjimal, who keeps them at his home and gives them the maximum security and shelter he can give. The Pathan leader Javed Khan comes to know that there are a few foreigners living in Lala's home, and he suddenly comes into their house and forcefully takes away Ruth and Miriam Labadur to his home. And then the rest of the book is followed by the various happenings in the Labadur family, who are very warmly welcomed by different family members of Javed Khan. But Javed Khan himself is a very cunning man and he pleads to marry Ruth Labadur. Mariam then saves her daughter many times as she doesn't want her to marry Javed Khan. She keeps a condition that if the British are able to take on the country once again, then she'd not let him marry her daughter, and if they lose to the rebels, then she would give her daughter to him. And what happens is the British are able to take hold of the country, and Javed Khan is killed in one of the fights with the British. And with lots of help and support, the Labadur family is finally able to reach their relatives. So that is how the Flight of Pigeons, it also has a historical setting. Now we go to the next one, The Night Train at Deoli. This is a short story by Ruskin Bond. It's set in a small town of Deoli, which is in Rajasthan, and the story follows the protagonist, the young boy called Kanak. He experiences a night of adventure and mystery on the Deoli to Delhi night train. Kanak is quite curious and adventurous boy who lives in Deoli with his parents, and he has always been fascinated by this night train that passes through his town every day. So, through his childhood, when we explore the story further, his wish comes true. He boards the train and he meets a group of diverse characters, each with their own unique story to tell. As the night goes on, Kanak begins to feel quite uneasy and scared, but eventually he is rescued by a railway employee and he is reunited with his relieved parents. So, The Night Train at Deoli is a coming of age story. It captures a sense of wonder, sense of adventure that we all experience as children, and it reminds us of the power of imagination and the beauty of the unknown. So it's also a story of adolescent infatuation that is presented with great sensitivity. It expresses the narrator's love for a poor basket seller whom he encounters at a small station while he's on his way to Dehradun. He meets the girl only twice and he doesn't see her again, but she remains in his memory ever after. The next book we go on to is Rain in the Mountains. It's Notes from the Himalayas. It brings together some of Bond's most beautiful works from his years spent at the foothills of Himalayas in the town of Missouri. He presents his thoughts, his musings on his natural habitat, scenes from his daily life in prose as well as in poetry. Rain in the Mountains brings together some of Bond's most beautiful works from his years that he spent in the foothills of the Himalayas in the town of Missouri. So, through such vivid images, lucid style of writing, Bond evokes the everyday sights and sounds. He captures the essence of mountain life. The musings offer a view of the simple and affable world. Some of the writings in this book are Once Upon a Mountain Time, Sounds I Like to Hear, How Far is the River, and After Monsoon. So, as the names say, it's intensely related with nature. And it also transports us to a quiet world of mountains, lit with its own eternal charm. Now we look into two autobiographical works of the author, autobiographical sketches and stories from a very famous, best-loved children's writer. So for over 4 decades now, by way of innumerable short stories, essays, poems, and novels, Bond has championed simplicity and quietude in life and in art. So in his work, The Lamp is Lit, it's a collection of essays and episodes from his journal. And according to his own words, he calls it a celebration of my survival as a freelance. The author's early forays into the literary magazines during 1950s and 1960s, they are described in the first part of the book. He also gives some examples of his work at the time. And then the further following sections contain extracts from an unpublished travel journal that he kept during 1960s, like episodes from the highways on which he was a frequent traveler, the beginnings of life in Missouri, past as well as from the present, So, with much humor and compassion, Bond is able to record the charming eccentricities of friends as well as acquaintances. For example, like a former princess who's cheerfully obsessed with death and disaster, or like the silent miracles of nature. He calls it as new moon in a purple sky. Look at that. Then life's little joys, like the smell of onions frying and its fleeting regrets as well. So his autobiographical works are quite nostalgic. It's heartwarming, it's full of wisdom and charm. So the lamp is lit. It provides a fascinating glimpse into the life of Ruskin Bond, who is India's own resident Wordsworth in prose, as he's famously called. So that is about the major works of Ruskin Bond. Hope you found it useful. We'll meet with another video another day. Thank you.